What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of LaLiga Insiders. Something is telling me that maybe it's the last one before we have an official champion in La Liga. We're getting ahead of ourselves, though. There's still a few games that have to be played. Gemma Soler, Rodrigo Faez, always great to see you guys. And let's talk about Real Madrid. 6 titles in 475 days, closer to heaven. Almost paradise there for Barcelona. And what's new with our insiders? Why are we seeing Jude Bellingham? And why are we seeing Erling Haaland? Well, you just have to stick around to find out. We're going to sprinkle a little Wayne Rooney in our show today, starting with Real Madrid. And as I said, of course, those 6 titles in 475 days. And what a number for Carlo Ancelotti and company. This, of course, after winning the Copa del Rey this weekend against Osasuna. And we were talking a lot about leading up to this moment and what a luxury to be able to keep Luka Modric on the bench until the last minutes of the game. Rodrigo, what do you think of what Real Madrid has been able to do not only this season, but over this course of over 400 days?
Well, everyone, Chris, thought this season was going to be a disaster for Real Madrid, and finally they won a Copa del Rey final against Osasuna. I think it was a pretty tough game for Ancelotti's side, but it was, I'm not going to say easy, but it was a bit advantage for Real Madrid when they scored at this minute and a half goal by Rodrigo after an outstanding play by Vinicius. And I think they made it a little bit easier than they expected at the beginning, because when you are facing Osasuna, you're facing always a very strong, a very tough side like Yagoba Arrasate's team. But at the end of the day, it was a game control from the very beginning till the end of the match for Real Madrid boys. And I think they did a wise game, because not only because of Vinicius' performance, proving that he's the best player at his position in the world, but also we get to talk about Rodrigo Goes, the Brazilian guy who's always a key player in these kind of big games, and we get to talk about the defense. They prove that they are now at a high level before this important knockout against Manchester City at the UEFA Champions League semifinals. And I think, you know, this week has been really happy for Real Madrid with this Copa del Rey title. I think it's even more positive for Carlo Ancelotti, because this title saves the church of Carlo Ancelotti in the bench of Real Madrid for the next season. And let's see what happens. We will talk about this in the Insiders section later on, but it's been a really positive weekend for Real Madrid in Sevilla after winning that Copa del Rey against Osasuna.
Yeah, it's these kind of titles that can maybe help, of course, not only Carlo Ancelotti, but of course Gemma, Florentino Perez. Forget the fact that they're most likely not going to win La Liga. Of course, I'm not going to say that they won't win it until it's actually officially official, to put it in that way. But at the end of the day, what Rodri is saying is true, right? Gemma, how positive is this for Carlo Ancelotti specifically? Because we've touched a lot during the season that his future is a little bit up in the air.
Yes, exactly. It's almost always like this with Real Madrid coaches. It's so demanding, that managing job at Chamartin. And yeah, I think it's a great win for Ancelotti, for a team. They once again have proven that they are able to turn on, turn off in different competitions, in different games, as we saw in La Liga. At some point, it's true that I think this is disappointing. Not the fact that they are most than probably not gonna win La Liga title, because you cannot always win. They are the defending champions, but the fact that they have somehow put the arm down and decided not to compete for this competition anymore, as we saw in Real Arena last match day and in many games, and they will be finishing this La Liga campaign with so many points difference. The gap is going to be really big with Barcelona. That's disappointing, but the fact that they are still so competitive when talking about finals, that's that sentence that says that Real Madrid doesn't play finals, they win. It's true. It's a very competitive team with that great momentum that both Vinicius and Rodrigo, as Rodrigo was mentioning. It makes this forward line really powerful, really dangerous for any team. And it's true that it's a good number for Ancelotti, 6 titles in 475 days, but it's true that this is not something historical. Already both Barcelona and Bayern Munich managed to do this in a calendar year. That would be the big achievement for me for a project, but it's of course something remarkable. And let's see what they are going to do now. I think it's a positive vibe before facing Man City. It's going to be a capital semi-final, both games, and we will see. But it's true that it's really good news, especially because Osasuna were the underdogs. Let's give some credit to them that they competed well and they did an amazing Copa del Rey year. But eventually playing against Real Madrid is always so tough.
Yeah, absolutely. What the fans hoped for is what they saw from their Osasuna side, right? Just to be able to go out there, give it their all. Of course, the ideal would have been to take that title home with them and take it away from Madrid, but it wasn't the case for them. And we're looking forward to, and I'm sure you guys are too, I'm so excited for the Champions League this week. And of course, looking to that semifinal that you both already touched on. We know what Madrid's mentality is when it comes to Champions League specifically. But when it comes to the level of against Manchester City, this is what Wayne Rooney had to say. There's no side better at disproving arguments against them than Carlo Ancelotti's Madrid. But I just think Manchester City are so good that they're on another level. They will not just beat Real Madrid. They'll blow them away. Rodri, what do you have to say about this?
You know, Chris, that there is an English band in the 80s and in the 90s called the Smiths, okay? And they used to sing a song called Big Mouth Strikes Again. And I think it's the perfect title for this, the Times article by Wayne Rooney saying that. I understand what Rooney just said, and I can think about, if I were Wayne Rooney, like, okay, now they're gonna be knocked out by Manchester City, but you are talking about Real Madrid, Wayne Rooney. You know perfectly how Real Madrid play in the Champions League, and you know what Real Madrid did last season. Everyone last season said the same, and I know that you got the Haaland factor this season, which is something that makes even more favorite Manchester City against Real Madrid. But you are talking about Real Madrid in the Champions League. So please shut up and let the people play. Because at the end of the day, if finally Real Madrid do the same that they did last season, when everyone were saying like, no, Real Madrid is impossible that they win Manchester City, and at the end of the day, who won the Champions League? And I'm not saying that Real Madrid are going to do it again, because I find it really difficult for Carlo Ancelotti and his people. But I mean, you gotta be shut up with this, please. Shut up, because this is Real Madrid, and when Real Madrid are playing home against Manchester City, the first one who is afraid of Real Madrid is not Wayne Rooney, is not Carlo Ancelotti, is a guy who for me is the best coach ever, Pep Guardiola. He said and he advised in this press conference prior the game that Real Madrid in Champions League is a different thing.
Yeah, absolutely. To quote the Smiths as well, if Man City are eliminated from Real Madrid, I'm sure they'll be singing "To Die by Your Side" is such a heavenly way to die because of what Madrid is in the Champions League. We're inspired today. I love the Smiths, so good on you, Rodri, with that one. Gemma, what do you think? Do you agree with what Rodri said, that Wayne Rooney is out of his mind?
So, I don't think we can say that Wayne Rooney is a Citizen supporter, so yeah. I guess that he honestly thinks that Man City are better team this season than Real Madrid. It's true that he's saying in a very maybe too harsh way, and the 14 times Champions League champions, they should get more respect. But I guess, yeah, that they maybe have shown this season some more vulnerabilities, that in the defensive line sometimes they are not that much competitive. And the fact that Man City are playing such a brilliant campaign again, and that they have this addition of Erling Haaland that makes them so much powerful. I guess he thinks they are way superior, and he has a very strange a way to say it, I think, and quoting your musical thing. You cannot never say this with Real Madrid with 180 minutes, and if eventually Carlo Ancelotti makes it to the final, Wayne Rooney will have to take a walk on the wild side and ask forgiveness or something.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting turnout for sure, and I'm very excited to see it. Is Wayne Rooney right? Is he not? We'll see it in these 180 minutes. But I totally agree with what you were saying, Gemma. Certainly not a Citizen supporter, so I think he's speaking from a very honest place there, Wayne Rooney. Anyway, this is what the ESPN Soccer Index thinks about what's coming up. A 33% chance for Madrid to take at least the first leg in the semifinal. For Man City, a little bit more there with that 43% and a 24% chance to see that draw. So leaving Real Madrid aside, they got the title. They're trying to get the Champions League title, of course. And Barcelona are trying to win La Liga title, as we know. And as we've been talking about for a long time now, and we're getting closer and closer to this possibility. Gemma, I'm going to stick with you because there's only one more opportunity. Well, not one more opportunity, but they have to just get 3 more points. And it could be against Espanyol. What would this mean to not only clinch the title, but of course, being a local, Gemma, what would it mean to specifically win by playing against Espanyol?
Well, there is a huge, humongous rivalry. It's true that in the last recent years, the fact that Espanyol are way in a different level than Barcelona made these games maybe a little less competitive, but yet very much spicy. So it's special for some players. We'll be talking a little bit some insights that in the insiders precisely. But there is a big motivation for some players and for the fan base. There's going to be a very a lot of Espanyol supporters showing absolutely the contrary, because they are not going to be happy with that fact, especially because it doesn't only mean that Barcelona are maybe going to clinch the title, but it means that for them, every game, the 5 finals they have ahead of them, not winning that games, even a draw is not a good result for them, being there just in the last position in La Liga, just with Elche as a bottom team. So it's a tough game for Espanyol, and for Barcelona, they have only suffered 1 defeat in 14 games that they played in the Espanyol's new stadium, Cornellà al Prat. So they feel quite comfortable playing there. It's true that the fact that there is no Gerard Piqué, who was the most hated player ever in that stadium, and for that team maybe loses a little bit of spicy, but it's gonna be huge, and there is a big motivation in Barcelona.
Yeah,
squad.
And this Catalan derby. Rodri, what do you think about this possibility, and of course to see that against Espanyol?
I was talking to an Espanyol player this weekend after what happened in the past 2 weeks with them, and they were so sad. And when I was talking to that guy, I was like, man, I feel so sorry, because you're going to face Barcelona. And we know that anything can happen in that derby next weekend. But this is going to be so hurtful for any Espanyol supporter if finally they lose against Barcelona and they win La Liga, and you're going to be in that second place from the bottom of La Liga, and you're almost going to be relegated once again to the Segunda División. That's going to be really hard for them, and they are suffering from the inside, because they consider that they don't really have a bad team this season. If you go player by player in this squad, you can find Denis Suarez, you got Puado, you got Sergi Darder, you got Joselu, you got such great players that this is almost impossible to see Espanyol in this situation, in this final La Liga rush. So that is why anyone understands that situation now in Spain, and doesn't really matter if you like or not Espanyol. I mean, this is a pity for Espanyol, because if they finally got relegated at the end of this La Liga season, this is going to be the second time in less than 3 years that they got to Segunda División. So that is why this is really sad for an historical side like Espanyol, and this is going to be even more sad if finally Barcelona can get that La Liga title in the Espanyol field against Espanyol supporters and trying to get Espanyol even more deeper in the table.
Yeah, it would just be the cherry on top of a very disastrous time that they're living there in Espanyol. Yeah, it was sad when they got relegated, like you said, Rodri, very, very recently, because, of course, fans looking forward to the derby, and it's not necessarily, Gemma, correct me if I'm wrong, that they want them to be in the second division.
Yeah. You mean the supporters or the
well,
the
yeah,
players?
yeah, the players, the Barcelona side, right? It's not like they're wishing that they just go to the second division. Or maybe I'm wrong.
The players. The players.
I don't know, Gemma. I don't know the players, but Laporta. I mean, that's the main guy now at the moment.
That's what I was about to make the difference. I think most of the players, they don't have that big rivalry feeling, because there are a lot of the players in the squad who have never played in the junior divisions, and that's when this big rivalry really starts growing. But if you talk about Laporta, he's 100% culé, and there is a big part, not all of the culés I'm going to say, but for a big part of the society, of big hate. So if we talk about the supporters, then I'm going to say maybe 80% of the supporters really want to see Espanyol suffering. There's this thing that grows with a big rivalry, and the fact that Espanyol, one of the thing they enjoy the most is trying to make something bad for Barcelona, like with the Tambudazo, trying, because it's true that they compete at a different level, but if they can make something that it eventually means that Barcelona are not going to clinch a title, either Copa del Rey or La Liga, there's this huge motivation of the team that it has become the underdog of the city. So in the squad, it's not like if we talk about 10 or maybe 20 years before, then it was a huge, a lot of hate in the pitch. I'm not sure if I don't think we're gonna see this on Sunday.
Hopefully not. Hopefully we see a really, really good game, of course, which is what we always expect in these kind of derbies, especially with that extra motivation we're seeing there for Espanyol. Speaking of motivation, with a lot of money in their pocket, of course, Saudi Arabia is still causing pretty much, or Messi, Lionel Messi, of course, I'm talking about him in connection with Barcelona, in connection with the possibility of signing for $400 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. It's right there. Read it. It's an insane amount of money. It's the reality now when we talk about, of course, these leagues, and specifically it could be Al Hilal looking at Lionel Messi for this possibility. Rodi, when we see these kind of numbers, which of course we know what's been surrounding Lionel Messi lately with PSG, suspended without pay for a couple of weeks after traveling without that authorization, what comes to mind when you see this number connected with somebody like Lionel Messi?
Leo, don't do it, please. Don't do it. That's the first message that I got in my mind when I read those news, and I was like, please don't do it, because I mean, you got the example of Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, he wants to go back again to Europe, to some other European team to try to compete again, because they don't really are comfortable there, because they are winners. And if you go to Saudi Arabia, and I'm not going to complain about the championship or the country, I'm just talking about Leo Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo way of compete, which is something that, something that only allow them to win. And if you don't win in Saudi Arabia, you're going to be like in a golden cage. So that's why, at the end of the day, I'm going to pray, because I don't want to see Leo Messi in Saudi Arabia. I just got the news that he's training again with PSG. So he's not going to be punished any longer by the PSG member board. So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, please don't do it. Please try to renew with PSG, or try to look for another big club in Europe to try to compete again, maybe 1-2 more years. I don't really see the situation due to those financial issues that they have at Barcelona, so I don't really see Leo Messi coming back to Barcelona. Yeah. It would be great, believe me, but I don't really see that fact happening. But I mean, if this is not PSG, I mean, try to look for another team. Or if you have to leave Europe, please go to MLS. Yeah. United States is a wonderful country. Go there, you get tons of teams that they will pay a lot of money for you, but don't go to Saudi Arabia. You're not gonna be happy. And I want Leo Messi to be happy.
Yeah, and he's connected with several teams in Major League Soccer, one of them being, of course, Inter Miami. He has a house there. We know his wife likes it, which, of course...
Are you gonna compare, Chris, Miami to Riyadh, for example? I was there 4 months ago, and if you compare both, I mean, please go to Miami. You got a better place to be living there.
Yeah, and if it's something that he's familiar with, hey, Miami's cool. I was just there a couple weeks back. It's expensive, but I don't think that's going to be an issue for Lionel Messi. Wow. Gemma, what do you think? Where do you see his future?
Well, I got sick when I read the $400 million per season for a player that's going to be 36. So it's but the thing is that in talking about money, Lionel Messi has already made enough money for his life, for the life of his 3 kids, and for the life of the nieces of his I don't know, for 10 at least. So I would, after watching that World Cup and his competitive level, for me it would be a huge disappointment to not to go to a league of a different level, but the fact that we are not going to see him anymore because we are not being able to watch Cristiano Ronaldo. It's not attractive. It's difficult to watch it. I don't think there is a point. I mean, he still got the competitive level to play in Europe, maybe with a different role than the one he has been having in the last decade and 15 years probably. But for me, I would still like to see him in the first level, at least one more season, and then maybe another season. So that's the thing. And according to that information, that offer, the truth is that Messi hasn't decided anything yet. He's still waiting to see what happened. And now his focus, as Rodri mentioned, he has been forgiven for 1 week of suspension because he made that video. He said he's sorry. So he's back to training. And right now his focus is he's a competitive animal, even though what happened, even though that insult that he received from the ultras of PSG, he wants to win Ligue 1, he wants to win it competing, and then he will take a decision. And he has many things on the table, but he's still waiting for the offers, and at the end of the season decide what's the thing that suits him the most.
Approaching summer, of course, we'll be following that very closely, and of course we'll be talking to both of you about where Lionel Messi will eventually end up, if that's in Saudi Arabia, if it's his continuation in Europe, or if, of course, he ends up in MLS, which would be huge for Major League Soccer. And the fans respond so well when players of this level, of course, join their league. Gareth Bale at LAFC, everybody was so excited, and he scored a goal in the final. So this would be really, really interesting. But what's also very interesting is the insider information that you two, of course, have prepared for us. Rodi, I'm going to start with you first because we, of course, talked about Carlo Ancelotti's future, how positive this Copa del Rey title was, of course. What's the latest with him and with Mr. Bossman, Florentino Perez?
Well, Ancelotti is going to be Real Madrid coach for the next season until a miracle happens, you know. So this is something that we've been talking about, reporting for the past 2 months. And we know that a lot of reports from Brazil saying that Real Madrid coach was a target by Brazilian Confederation. But we understood after talking to our sources at the Real Madrid and, you know, talking to Ancelotti's camp that he wanted to be 1 more year as a Real Madrid coach. This was his desire. And once the Real Madrid won that Copa del Rey final against Osasuna, it was the same Florentino Perez, who said in Televisión Española, in Spanish public television, that they are happy with Carlo Ancelotti despite the rumors around his future. And we all know that we've been reporting for Carlo Ancelotti's future for the past 5 months, but at the end of the day, we've been repeating every single week the same. Ancelotti wants to stay at Real Madrid because he's happy at the club, he's happy with the players that he have, and he's happy with the life and with his life in Madrid. So that is why there is no point of seeing Carlo Ancelotti out of Real Madrid. Let's see what happens, because this is going to be really important what happens this week against Manchester City, because if a disaster happens, maybe we could be talking again about his future, because this is Real Madrid and they live day by day. But the thing is that they want Ancelotti to be their coach for next season, and Ancelotti wants to stay and get his contract done, which is due to June 2024. So that is why doesn't look to there's something different. If not, Real Madrid really like how Xabi Alonso is doing and performing in Bundesliga's Bayer Leverkusen, but looks like at 99% Carlo Ancelotti is going to be Real Madrid coach for next season.
Yeah, Xabi Alonso has given, of course, Leverkusen quite the look, which was completely different at the beginning of the season. He took over and they're at another level. They were able to recover a little bit from that situation. So it'd be really interesting to see him, of course, come back to Madrid, and now, of course, as a coach. Thanks, Rodri. Gemma, I'll go with you, because we were talking about, of course, the Catalan Derby. Talk to us about this first match ball in hostile land.
Yes, it's circumstances of the calendar made it this way. It's such a special game, as we talked a little bit earlier. And what I wanted to mention is that it's so hostile land that La Liga decided not to give the trophy to Barcelona, even though they could be champions before playing that game, in case Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid, they both were unable to win their games that they play earlier, or if they make those 3 points and they are ready, they clinch a title, mathematically they are champions. There won't be the typical ceremony with the trophy, and this will be happening the next match day against Real Sociedad. So of course there will be some celebrations. And what about the locker room? So before you asked me how is that feeling. So as I was mentioned, for most of the players, I'm talking about Lewandowski, Koundé, Christensen, Ter Stegen, there is not this hate of Espanyol, but it's been such a long year, a long season, that they do really want to clinch this La Liga title as soon as possible. And this has been the mentality of the last games, especially when they were eliminated by Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey semi-final. The mindset was, let's finish this. We want to forget about the Copa del Rey, some defeats like against Almeria, some draws like the Girona or the game in Getafe. They want to forget about that, and or Vallecas especially, and win it as soon as possible. So it's not a matter of who is in front of them, that is Espanyol, but they want to win this title as soon as possible. And yeah, they are going to celebrate in the Camp Nou probably if they make that victory after the game of Real Sociedad. But especially for 3 players in the squad, there is this other motivation. I talked earlier about Gerard Piqué. He had a big hate for Espanyol, but if we talk about Sergio Busquets, for Jordi Alba as well, he's got that feeling as well, because he has played in the divisions where they play against Espanyol, but especially for Xavi Hernandez. He's a La Masia boy. He knows what it is to play against Espanyol. So for the coach of Barcelona, it's going to be special to be able to clinch his first La Liga title as a manager, and being able to make it in Cornellà al Prat. That's a big thing for him.
Oh yeah, just to be able to put a little bow on top of that situation. It's really, really interesting there how they're, of course, handling this possibility of clinching La Liga title. Thanks, Gemma. Rodri, with you, Barcelona trying to get that deal done and Real Madrid trying to get another deal done. What's the latest with Jude Bellingham and the Merengues?
Real Madrid are moderate optimistic on Jude Bellingham's future because they understand in the Jude Bellingham's roller coaster during all this season that now they are a bit closer than they were maybe 1 month ago. So that is why they are, a little bit confident on getting Jude Bellingham signed. But at the same time, we've been talking to our Manchester City's sources during this weekend, and they were shocked by the way Spanish media were reporting about this moderate optimism on Real Madrid regarding Bellingham. They were like, okay, we are leading this race still, or at least we consider that Manchester City are still leading this race, despite these new movements of Real Madrid that maybe get a little bit close Real Madrid to Jude Bellingham in that gap in between Real Madrid and Manchester City. Let's see what happens, because this is not the final chapter regarding the English international midfielder, but at the end of the day, it looks like Real Madrid are a bit confident, and when Real Madrid are a little bit more confident than they were 1 month ago, is because they know something that we don't really get. So let's see what happens. But Manchester City are again, really confident too from their side, and they understand that this media hype from Spain are just something to try to disconnect Manchester City players before this Champions League knockout in between Real Madrid and Manchester City. Let's see what happens in the last 2 weeks of competition, but it looks like there's going to be a huge fight in between Manchester City and Real Madrid to get Bellingham for the next season.
I love these mind games in and out, on and off the field, of course, and especially when it comes to these deals, and of course talking about Madrid and Manchester again, City. So back to you, Gemma, because there are some contract situations as well that Barcelona has to get resolved. Of course, this rumor with Messi. But what's the latest with not only him, but also Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba?
Yes, so there were reports on Monday in Spain, like big headlines saying that the three amigos, the three of them, are going to play to Al Hilal with that offer that they made to Lionel Messi. This will include as well Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba. And the truth is that it's, according to our sources, that's not true. As we said about Lionel Messi, he's still has to decide. He wants to wait until the end of the season, and once he's champions with PSG, then he will leave Paris and then decide what to do. In the case of Sergio Busquets, he's waiting to clinch LaLiga title with Barcelona, and then he will announce to the club and then to the fan base and to everyone, which is his future, which is true that it might have more chances to end in Saudi Arabia because the MLS chances are low right now. So he's got to decide if to keep one more year with a way less salary than he is having right now in Barcelona, or to leave to Saudi Arabia. And the fact with Jordi Alba, he sticks on his contract. He wants to make one more year in Barcelona, and then he will decide what to do. And what you asked me about, how is it, because this is not only one side, the player decision, this is also Barcelona decision. So talking about that, of course, the fact that Mateu Alemany will leave the club makes things I don't know if it's slow, but a little bit more complicated. But in the case of Lionel Messi, there's no natural substitute yet. The club is talking to Deco. He's one of the main candidates, as we explained last Monday, but it's not done yet. Does this help to bring Lionel Messi back? Yes, it does, for two reasons. One, because Mateu Alemany, he was a very let's say, wise sport director, that he had the numbers in his head and he really wanted to play with a fair play balances and make it proper. We will see what does the person who is in head of the sport direction next. And it's true that if it's Deco, he was one of the best friends of Lionel Messi when he first made his debut with Barcelona. Deco and Ronaldinho were the two players that helped this kid, that shy kid from Argentina, that he was extremely shy but extremely talented. It was the two veteran players that helped him get into the first team. So for sure it would be something special. If this is like a big reason, if Deco goes to Barcelona, then Messi definitely does. It doesn't mean, because they still have to operate, balance all the numbers, make sales, make a lot of adjustments to be able to open that gap of fair play. They need a lot, 200 millions to be able to make this kind of operation.
Yeah, unless Deco is carrying a big piece of luggage with 200 million in there, I don't see it happening either. But yeah, it's very nostalgic to think about Deco back at Barcelona with everything that you just mentioned. Of course, every time I see his face, I just picture him in a Blaugrana shirt. Again, good times with Deco. Rodri, let's talk about somebody else who's kind of waiting to see what the situation is going to be. What's the latest with Marco Asensio?
Yeah, because we know, Chris, that Real Madrid is about to close Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, and Karim Benzema's renewal. But there are some issues on Dani Ceballos. He doesn't really have any renewal offer on the table. And Marco Asensio, he does have a renewal offer on the table. He's still thinking about that. He's not happy after what happened in the Copa del Rey final against Osasuna. I mean, his face was a poem, like we say in Spain, like, you know, when you are not really happy by the role that you are performing in that past game. And mostly it's like thinking about his future, because Marco Asensio considers that he needs a little bit more protagonism in Real Madrid. And now that we've reported that Carlo Ancelotti is going to be Real Madrid coach for next season, unless there is a disaster in this Manchester City knockout of the Champions League semi-finals, looks like Marco Asensio is still thinking about that. Let's see if he is going to think about this for a long time, or maybe for a short period of time, which is something that Real Madrid have asked him for, because Real Madrid, if Marco Asensio doesn't continue next season, they want to look for a Marco Asensio replacement as soon as possible, and they want to start working on that just in case Marco Asensio doesn't accept that renewal offer from Real Madrid. Let's see what happens, but it's up to Marco Asensio. And let me, Chris, inform you of a breaking news. Really sad breaking news, which is something that we've been working on all this morning. And is this that Rodrigo Goes, you know, the main character, the Copa del Rey final MVP, Rodrigo Goes' house was burgled during this game. When he was playing in Sevilla against Osasuna, his house was burgled by thieves. The good thing of all is that there were no one inside the house. So there are no kind of, you know, frightening people or whatever. There were no kids, no other persons. But the sad thing is that Rodrigo Goes now is a little bit sad, because he's not safe anymore. Doesn't really matter where he lives or the money that he has, because, you know, he was playing that game against Osasuna, the Copa del Rey final this past weekend, and at the same time some thieves broke into his house to try to steal some jewelry and things like that.
Yeah, even if maybe somebody listening right now, it's like, well, it's just material things, nobody was hurt. But what you said, right? He doesn't feel safe in his own home. That's not what we want to feel when we walk into our house, much less when we go to sleep at night. And there are kids involved, of course. So hopefully that situation gets resolved. Hopefully they can feel a little less vulnerable. And every time he leaves town, yeah, that's really a tough situation, Rodri. But thanks for the breaking news. So hopefully they can feel a little bit calmer. That's all that we can truly hope for. We're going to take it to a little bit of extra time now, a little bit of a happier topic. Erling Haaland said something kind of funny. Scores a lot of goals, right? He's getting the job done. And that kind of makes you wonder what he does on his time off. And he says, I'll go home, play some video games, have something to eat, sleep. But I can't say which video games I play because it's too embarrassing. Gemma, what video games is he talking about? I mean, what comes to mind when you see him say that?
I mean, if he's so ashamed of that, I think it's Just Dance. That's a game that you dance and sing with the computer, or the PlayStation or whatever. So I guess it has to do something like this.
Like Dance Dance Revolution?
Yeah, exactly, that one. And I can picture Erling Haaland singing and dancing.
Yeah,
that way.
or a little Guitar Hero rock band. Rodri,
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
when it comes to embarrassing, I don't know why in my mind came up the video game that's from a few years ago. Neopets. Did you guys ever play Neopets? I feel like it.
I don't really see Holland playing that dance game, and I see him more playing FIFA 23, but with a different side out of Manchester City. I think he plays with PSG, with Neymar, with Messi, with Kylian
That's
Mbappe.
embarrassing, though,
maybe.
right?
Yeah, but I mean, but you are defending Manchester City colors. So at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna play with this, but I'm not gonna play with my team. Maybe that is why he's a little bit ashamed of saying what is he playing for, or maybe he's playing God of War, which is a Viking, but with no,
Yes,
he's bold.
awesome.
He's a bold Viking, and that is why maybe he says like, no, I'm not gonna be bold any longer. I don't know.
I like Gemma's theory a little bit. I'm kind of imagining him just like
it's a fun one. I would like to watch him.
Hey, it's good cardio too, dancing.
Yeah, training.
What would be an embarrassing video game for you guys? Like, what would you be embarrassed to say, Rodri?
I don't know. I wouldn't be ashamed of any video game. The thing is that I gotta admit that from the three of us, I mean, I am the main video games user, but I gotta admit that I am very bad.
Me too.
Video game. I still. You know why? Look, this is my last controller. Look how it is. Because I am very bad at this, and sometimes it gets on my nerves. So I gotta crush it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I won't judge. A lot of people, right? I'm a soccer fan and a football fan, and people are like, "Oh, so you play FIFA, right?" And I say no, and they say why, and I'm like, because I'm too competitive, and I get really angry when I don't win, and I'm not good at it, and I don't like it. Gemma.
Me, probably it would be actually I play sometimes with so Fortnite.
Nice.
Because I have a nephew that he really enjoys that, and sometimes I kill people on a video game.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Thank you very much for the appreciation.
I need to see that. I really need to see that. So you appreciate what Griezmann? This is the Fortnite one, right? That he does the little dance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
that one.
Okay. See, I'm not too out, but I'm sticking with the classics.
I don't like shooters anymore.
Yeah. I'll do Zelda. I'll do Mario Kart, Mario Party, Super Smash Brothers is always very fun.
Yeah, you're a Nintendo girl.
Yeah, I am. I'm a '90s girl, and I grew up with it. But yeah, it's great. I love this conversation. Let's keep it going. No, I'm just kidding. We have to go. Gemma.
Nintendo Insiders.
Yes, Nintendo
Alexander and
Insiders.
Gemma Soler. Thank you very much.
And tips to not break your remote controls, your gaming consoles, Rodri. So yeah, maybe put some like foam around it, so it'll at least have a little
no
bounce to it.
No, because I got my cell phone. I mean, you know that I broke my cell phone with a controller.
Oh no!
I tried to crash on the table, and suddenly I don't know. Okay, you're not gonna see it, but this is broken because of this.
Oh no!
It's like, don't use this. This is my girlfriend, by the way.
Hey, girl.
But don't try to crash any control on the table if you got the cell phone on the table, because it'll happen.
Maybe don't throw anything.
This is really extra time and tips.
Yeah, you're keeping it extra, Rodri. I like it. All right, we have to say goodbye. As you guys just saw, of course, you can watch all of La Liga matches on ESPN Plus. You can follow Gemma and Rodri, of course, on their social media for the latest and greatest information. And we'll be back here in a few days to talk about, of course, that first semifinal leg that Real Madrid will have against Manchester City. Guys, have a great week. Thank you so much as always, and see you later.
Thank you.
Some FIFA 23. Bye.